Hello and welcome to another edition of The Stew with JT Brew. I'm your host, Justin Taylor. Joining me today is my good friend, John McGlynn, as we're going to talk NFL bets week 2. NFL bets week 2. Stick with us here on Fantasy and Frames.
You up on trades and why you move, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so start an institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sipping brew, sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes, down to homies who click in groups. I introduce you to the Stew with JT Brew.
Thanks everybody for joining us here. John, my boy, we've been on a couple shows together here. You're not usually on my bet show, but hey, you jumped in and helped me out today, and I appreciate it. Let's hammer through this for the people. Let's get things started right away. Week 2, excuse me. We're jumping in. First game up on the slate, Thursday night contest. This is the one, your original Miami Dolphins against your boy Josh Allen. Well, what do we like in this one? -2 Dolphins, -2.5 currently at the home favorite in this one, with a over-under of 48.5. Kind of keeping the lines down to 40 right now, 48 on DraftKings. I'm leaning the Dolphins on this one. What are you thinking? What, you got any thoughts on this game, Dolphins-Bills?
The biggest home field advantage in all of sports are these two teams. The Dolphins early in the season, because it is actually, it is like a barbecue grill in that stadium. And if you looked, I've seen it on TikTok and you've seen it all over Twitter and you've seen it all over the other places. The Dolphins have it set up where they're in the shade after like the first quarter of the game, or it's when the sunlight's out during a day game. I know this is a night game, so it might not be as big of an advantage, but when the sun comes out, the Dolphins are in the shade and the opposing team is roasting in the sun the rest of the game, especially in the day games. This is a night game, 20 at night, so the Dolphins, the Bills will get a little bit of a bake it, the first half get worn out a little bit from the sun. But the other advantage is Buffalo, like in the playoffs when it's snowing and minus 100 degrees in blizzard conditions. I'm taking, as much as I love Josh Allen, the offense looked like Josh Allen just had to do everything by himself. I don't think Keon Coleman's up to speed yet. Obviously Shakir does his thing. They got a couple extra pieces from contributions from other players, but the Dolphins are just they're already on full cylinders here. I think with Tyreek and all the speed on this team, I know A-Chain might be out, but they've got plenty of people who are just as fast on this offense. So unfortunately, I'm a Dolphins fan my whole life. I'm a Josh Allen fan now, but I think I'm going to have to take Dolphins minus Dolphins here as the favorite.
Yeah, Dolphins, the money line's -142, but I like the Dolphins to cover the 3. I'm going to get the over the 2.5. I think they win this by 3. This is, like you said, just such a tough place to play at home. I like their defense better than the Bills, and we saw week 1, it was like Josh Allen, and I think Josh Allen was having to do everything for the Bills. And I actually think this Miami, with how much I like the offenses, I actually like Miami's defense better than I like the Bills. So that's why I'm leaning Dolphins in this one. If you want to get in those time props, things like that, I will later release on my Twitter page today my JT Parlay play of the day for the Thursday night game. I do a same game parlay. That's always a little while with a lot of a pretty long shot on it. Ran one last week, almost got it, just missed on that one. So check out my page at JT Orange. So for that one, will be put out later. Next game on the list, we got Ravens Raiders. This is the biggest spread of the week. 8.5 right now are the Ravens against the Raiders. I usually hate taking these huge spreads in the NFL because you know how teams are. They always seem to backdoor cover, do anything else. Unless like there's an actual real issue with Lamar Jackson. I know these things a little banged up, but that happens. Unless there's an actual real issue with Lamar Jackson, I am all over in the Ravens at home in this game. I think they actually just put it to the Raiders. I'm not worried about the 8.5. I'm taking the Ravens.
This has to be a Devontae Adams. This has to be a Brock Bowers. This has to be a defense stopping the Ravens offense, or else it's going to be a hell of a lot more than 8.5 points. I'm the Ravens for sure.
Yeah. I just think that you can pile this one up. If you want to go negative the other way and pile this line up to about negative 12, do it like negative 12 and then take the over, you can get yourself some pretty awesome odds on there. So that's something I don't usually do that because I feel like I'm getting greedy, but this is one of those games where I'm like, oh, I'll push that line up and take that over to hit. You can see 41.5, a pretty low total there. The Ravens defense, I expect to absolutely dominate in this game. I'm staying away from the over-under because I can see the Ravens just getting wild in this game, and I don't want to take a chance that their offense just goes freaking off and they cover by themselves. So I'm definitely taking the Ravens points, and I will be all over some Ravens player props. We're actually going to jump into player props here at the end of the show instead of doing it with each game. John, let's jump in the next one. Niners versus the Vikings. Our boy Sam Darnold. No one's talking about the revenge game. Sam Darnold revenge game against the Niners. Not really revenge. He played for the Niners last year. We had our awesome bet of Sam Darnold winning NFL MVP. We took a long shot MVP bet on him last year, thinking that there was a chance that he might start for the Niners. That one blew up. Good thing we didn't have a lot of money on it.
He should have bet it this year.
Yeah, Brock Purdy ended up getting back, looking real good, getting the Niners all the way to the Super Bowl. I had the Niners in the Super Bowl, ended up losing that game to the Chiefs. We've got the Vikings +5 at home. This one, I want to say I feel like the Vikings are going to be sneaky at home and that they might cover this. I just don't know if I can do it. I just think the Niners are a much better team. The Vikings really look good week one, but they also played, I think, one of the worst 3 teams in football, and the Giants. I just am going to be nervous about covering the 5 with the Vikings the entire time. I'm taking the Niners, even if there is no CMC. We saw Jordan Mason look pretty good last week. I just think there's too much offense, and I just think this Niners defense is just too good. I think it's going to be tough for Darnold and the Vikings. So I'm laying the points, and I'm taking the Niners.
Jordan Addison might be out this week. He was out. He did not practice today or Wednesday anyway, so I didn't get any practice reports as of today yet. But I mean, you're looking at Jalen Naylor. Excuse me, sorry about that. Brandon Powell. Johnny Muntz and Josh Oliver as your studs behind Justin Jefferson. I mean, Aaron Jones is able to carry the team by himself, but against the defense of the 49ers, I'm not sure he can carry this load. It's him and it's Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler and the Justin Jefferson show this week. If those guys can make things happen, which they can, we've seen them play against some pretty damn good teams their entire career and do pretty special things. I can see. I'm going to take, just because of the point spreads, I'm going to take Minnesota this week. San Francisco is absolutely a powerhouse, but I'm not sure if McCaffrey's going to play again. And they don't need McCaffrey to be special, but you can't think that Jordan Mason is going to be Superman every week. I mean, it might have been a fluke because they didn't expect it last minute change of pace back, but I'm going to go Minnesota here because I think San Francisco kind of I think they're going to kind of sleep with the wheel a little bit after what they did last week. So I'm going to go Minnesota.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm worried about them just having enough offense. I like Aaron Jones. I like Jefferson. I'm worried about getting enough offense up against this Niners defense, but they are at home, which always is a nice little advantage for them. Next game up, Cowboys at home against the Saints. Cowboys winning on the road against the Browns in week one. The Saints absolutely putting it to the Panthers. This one's a toughie for me. The Saints looked really good, but again, I think the Panthers are really bad. The Cowboys, the defense impressed me against the Browns. They played better than I thought they were going to play. I thought this was going to have to be an all offensive team. They scored a little bit of every way, even a punt return for a touchdown from Turpin. It's -6 right now. If it stays there, I'm probably going to take the Cowboys to win by a touchdown. I just think they're a better team than the Saints. I think the Saints are going to have some good games this year, but I think they're more in their division. Them going to Dallas, I'll take the -6. If it gets up to a touchdown or over a touchdown, which I could actually see that, especially in Cowboys games, the late money loves to pile on the Cowboys. I can see I get up, then I'd be a little more nervous about it. The over-under total is 47. That one I'm not super comfortable with. I could easily see it covering, but I think both these teams' defenses are pretty solid. I I know last week it was like special teams, defense got touchdowns and for both these teams, and they went way over. So it seems like this should be a way over game, but I like Dallas.
I like Dallas too. I think we've spoken. We've been doing a lot of podcasts last couple of days, JT. We've been on. I spend more time with you than I have with my wife the last couple of days. So this is we talked about Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave not getting his share for week one. Guys like Rashid up. I don't think that New Orleans is as bad as people make them out to be. I can see the over coming in here. Just I know Dallas is a great defense. I think people overestimate defense sometimes, especially earlier in the season when defense is like the major contributor. But I'd probably take the over here. I might take New Orleans with being able to keep up with Dallas in this game. Like you said, they both have pretty good defenses. The big problem with the Dallas is their running game. They don't really have with Zeke Elliott and Rico Dowdle here. I'm not really sure they'll be able to get the running game going. So if they have to rely on the passing game, which they've done before plenty of times, I think possibly it might be a little bit closer than people think. So I'm probably going to go New Orleans on this one, especially if it goes up to 7, like you said. 7.
Yeah,
7,
it gets much higher. I'm going to start getting nervous. I think. Yeah, we our friend Chris, new mailman Chris. Woo! Thanks for joining us, Chris. Once again, he's always got our backs here on the Fantasy and Frames
guy
podcast.
Who won't trade me any running backs. That guy.
I still considering that trade, Chris, that you sent me. I'm still looking at it, thinking about it. Been too many podcasts lately to pull the trigger. He's got also a question about long. And I'll come back to this one, Chris. Best long shot for anytime TD tonight. I will jump back in and let you know about that one. We'll hit that one up at the end of the show. All right, let's jump on to the next game. Panthers at home +6 against the Chargers -6. Gosh, over under 39. I have to tell you that's a brutal over under, and now I know the Panthers look terrible in week 1, but I'm not sure I trust the Chargers to put up a ton of points in this game. The most comfortable thing for me would be taking the under. And if I put this in a parlay or a teaser, I would like to tease that up a little bit and maybe take it at like 42 and then take the under. Where I'd feel a little more comfortable about doing that. I don't feel good about the Panthers even at +6, so I can't take that number, but I also don't love the Chargers enough to think that they're almost a guaranteed touchdown winner. I think Herbert actually roasts this team after looking bad last week. So I'm going to look at his props, and I'll look at that at the end of the show, but I might jump on some Herbert player props after he had a really low output last week in their win.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Palmer is probably their best receiver on this team. And McConkey is pretty good, but I think Palmer was kind of supposed to be rat holding there as a number one guy, and he got ejected. Now he's hurt a little bit, he's shaken up a little bit. McConkey's a fine wide receiver 2-3, but he's not. I don't think he lead the offense. Right now at this stage in his career, and I don't expect to dig J.K. Dobbins show like I did last season. He went absolutely ham last week. I saw Gus Edwards is a decent running back, but I think Carolina probably keeps this game pretty close this week. To be honest with you, I think the Chargers are just their name recognition as Justin Herbert and the Chargers, and what they've done the last couple of years. They've kind of proved everybody wrong. And I think people still have that wow, the Chargers are better than we thought. They're not. I'm going to take Carolina here with the spread.
Okay, yep. John said Carolina. I do not trust either of these teams, so I'm taking the under, and I'm definitely I'll take the under 39. But if I put it in any kind of parlay, I'm definitely gonna move that number up to 42 just to give myself a little wiggle room. Next one here. This one is really interesting. This line has absolutely changed. It's -3 Colts at the Packers. Jordan Love is out for the Pack. That is why this line has changed. This line I think would be closer to -4.5 or -5 for the Packers if Jordan Love was in this one. He's not. Can the Colts take advantage? It's over under 40.5. We got some real low over unders this week as a ton of the unders hit last week, and Vegas has pivoted, as we like to say, and they've put the scores real low this week. I'm taking the Colts in this one. They lost by 2 at home in the opener. The Houston. I know that seems like a shock to you, John. Here's why. I actually like this Packers team. I think the defense is good. I cannot take Malik Willis. I'm sorry. I cannot do it. I cannot put money on Malik Willis. I think this is going to be a tough game. This is not a game. I know there's some Colts fans out there that are thinking, hey, we're just going to run through this Packers team without Jordan Love. They still got a good defense. This defense is tough. I know they gave up a lot of points week 1 to the Eagles, but I think a lot of that was the field. The Eagles have a well-oiled machine of an offense. I think this game is going to be closer than people think. I'm taking the -3, but I absolutely could see this being a 3-point game. I really, really could. I just think the Pack is going to try to run the ball. And Josh Jacobs, I know there's a little bit of injury designation with him right now. If he ends up being healthy and playing, we've got to look at what the total over rushing yards for him is. But man, the holes were gigantic for Houston against the Colts. If the Pack can just pound the ball on the ground and keep the ball away from this Colts offense, this game could be a dogfight.
Yeah, Emmanuel Wilson looked outstanding last week. Josh Jacobs took a little bit of time to get going, but the second half he looked pretty good. This is a game I was so looking forward to because it was like two up-and-coming teams at full strength, real good pieces, especially Green Bay. I don't think they have a bad part of any part of their offense. They're stacked at tight end. They're stacked at wide receiver. They're stacked at running back. The quarterback, Jordan Love, being on top of his game was just something that was like, holy cow, this Packers team is definitely something to be reckoned with. And the Colts they were surprising to see Anthony Richardson come out and do what he did. I was really looking forward to this game. It really sucks that Malik Wilson is the quarterback for this game because I don't trust him at all. I think Green Bay will keep it close, but I honestly I'm going to take Indy with this. I'm not shocked you took Indy, but I'm shocking myself that I'm going to take the Colts over the Packers here. But it is what it is, man. When a guy like Malik Willis, I think he's actually terrible. So I don't trust anything coming out of this offense. You can't expect the offense to run, anywhat efficiently with Malik Willis at quarterback. It's got to be pound, and play defense. And I'm not sure you could play defense against Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor and the receivers that are on the Colts. So.
Yeah, John, fantasy-wise, I'm struggling finding myself, and even player prop-wise, taking anyone on the Packers but running backs in this week. Right. I just don't trust Willis to get guys the football. After a monster game, Jayden Reed, I hate to sit Jayden Reed, but I have to tell you, I think I'm sitting Jayden Reed in quite a few leagues. I just don't trust Malik Willis to get him the football.
I said Jayden Reed about 6 leagues in this week, so yeah, I get it. Not even on my flex play.
So we got a question here from Scott Kobe, I think it is. 2 props I like in tonight's game. James Cook over 18.5 yards receiving and Josh Allen under 22.5 completions. I like that. I think that could be solid bet. We're going to jump in and look at some Thursday night props here later in this one, but I do like that one, Scott. We'll keep that and bring that one back up as we get back to the player props near the end of the show. Next one, this one we got the Detroit Lions -7.5 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers +7.5 bucks. A big game at home last week against Washington, and then the Lions, the big overtime win against the Rams. Over/under is 51 on this one. That's not surprising as both these teams put up points in week 1. John, I'll let you jump into this one first. See what you say. What do you think in this one before I jump in and say my 2 cents?
The only thing that I could think of that the spread is so high is that Tampa Bay has a terrible secondary, and they're just planning on Detroit just feasting on the secondary of the Buccaneers. So I'm not really sure what the problem is there. But, Tampa Bay, Mayfield's playing out of his mind right now. Rashad White and Bucky Irving are doing good, just controlling the ball. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, even Jalen McMillan are all producers. And a guy like Cade Otton, who didn't do too much last week, he's going to produce. He gets open. He runs great routes. He gets open. I don't think there's really a way for the Lions to stop the Tampa Bay offense. As far as Mike Evans is open deep, Chris Godwin is across the middle, McMillan stretches the field, Cade Otton is available all over the place. I just don't understand how this is a 7.5 point spread. This absolutely shocks me. So I guess I'm going to have to say, at this point in time, I'm going to take the Buccaneers and the 7.5. The Lions 7.5.
You're taking the Lions 7.5. I think the Lions win this game. I definitely would take the Lions to win this one. The 7.5. I want to take the Bucs to cover. I want to take them to keep it close, but man, I'm not 100% sure they can. This is going to be a tough game for them at the Lions. If they play this game close, I think it's going to say a lot more about the Bucs this year, about maybe they are a team to be reckoned with. I think they are a solid team. I think they can win against bad teams. Can they beat good teams? And the Lions at home is a really good team. So this one's going to be a toughie for me. Right now, this is probably a no bet for me. I got to figure out if I really want the Lions. And if this line gets down a little bit, I think it's just going to keep going up. And depending on how high it gets, I might be talked in to taking the Bucs if this thing gets up to like 8.5.
Just to clarify, I'm taking the Buccaneers plus 7.5. I was kind of going back and forth there. I don't know why I was like looking at other numbers on the side, but I'm taking the Buccaneers in the 7.5 points. I stated a lot of reasons why I thought that was it, but I'm taking Tampa Bay in the 7.5. That's crazy. The Buccaneers are too efficient as an offense. Just the defensive backfield is the only reason to be concerned here. So I'm taking Tampa Bay. I love the Lions. I love everything about them, the coach, the players, the feeling, the aura, the locker room. But I'm taking Tampa Bay here.
Yeah, I it's so hard for me not to take Tampa in the points here. I'd love it if it gets even higher. Scott back in here says, I agree. Go over on Godwin's receiving props. I think so. I think Godwin's going to be interesting. They got him the ball in the first game. I think he was eight for over 80 and a touchdown. So I definitely like that. Cheeto joining us again. Thanks, man. He was on yesterday with some questions. Appreciate it. How do you see Jonathan Taylor? I like Jonathan Taylor a lot. Barkley looked really good against this Packers team. Jonathan Taylor over props. I was just looking him up real quick. Right now, rushing yards for him on DraftKings. He's currently, they like him a lot. He's at minus 200 for 70 plus yards, minus 125 for 80 plus. I definitely think he could get over the 80. It's plus 130 at 90 plus. If you think he can put up a big game, I'm probably going to get on some kind of Jonathan Taylor rushing prop and rushing touchdown. Barkley looked really good against them, but again, I think the offense of the Eagles looked really good, and I think people were underrating Barkley coming in. But I do like Jonathan Taylor this week. He only had 48 yards, but did get a touchdown last week. I'm on the Jonathan Taylor train this year. I'm taking the overs in most games.
82 yards was the number I had in my head for Jonathan Taylor this week. So that's kind of
right. I was thinking the minus 125 at 80 plus. I do like that. You can get Jonathan Taylor right now just straight up. That's in the same game plot. You can go Jonathan Taylor's over 79.5 rushing yards is minus 120. So I like that. And Anthony Richardson over rushing yards is 39.5. He had 56 last week. I do like that as well. So I'm probably going to be parlaying those ones together as we get going. Next game on the list here, Seahawks, Patriots crushing everybody's survivor pools who took the Bengals last week. I'm out of 2 already. I'm going to have to find a new one to join. I knew the second I put it in probably a week or 2 early because they just were up in my leagues. I was like, I don't even need to think about it. I'm taking the Bengals at home against the Patriots. I had a bad feeling. Of course, the Bengals looked awful. Patriots are plus 3.5 at home against the Seahawks. This one has me nervous. Over under 38.5. Seahawks winning 26-20 in week 1 against the Broncos. I thought they would put it to the Broncos a little more than that. Now they got to go cross country for an early game against the Pats. Do you trust the Patriots in this game to cover once again? They're plus 3.5, or are you leaning points over under right now? 38.5. Real ugly game. 16-10 winners over the Bengals last week.
Bengals were, I think their entire offseason has been just, kind of a shit show to put it honestly. A lot of concerns. A quarterback with a mess with coming off an injury, the wide receiver in contract disputes. A lot of things going on in that team. Losing your running back, like you're starting from scratch pretty much. So I don't think it's going to take a while for Cincinnati to get back on track. So I'm going to take Seattle in this game. I think New England just was a beneficiary of an unorganized team that was trying to get back on track. I think Seattle kind of rolls New England this week. New England's got a great defense, but they have zero offense, minus from Ramondre Stevenson. So I'm not really, JT. You have to brief me a little bit more on how good the New England front seven is. But I mean, I don't see them stopping Ken Walker or Zach Charbonnet for that matter. And everything else in the receiving core is fantastic. So I don't think New England can keep up with them. by far on the offensive side of the ball, but stopping them is a whole different story.
I have to tell you, I think I'm leaning under in this game. It's 38.5, which is a low number. I usually don't like to take the unders once the unders get into the 30s.
Yeah,
but I think the Patriots are going to muck this game up like they did with the Bengals. They're going to try to run the ball. I know the Seahawks want to run the ball. Cheeto jumping in here. I got a good point. He says Seahawks defense looked great. Geno did not. I agree with that. Geno did not look great. I do like the secondary of the Patriots. They played really well against the Bengals. I think this game has low scoring, ugly game written all over it. I like I said, I usually hate jumping on games under 40, but this feels like another one of those 2017, 17-13 games. I wanted to trust the Seahawks more to take the over on this, but I'm nervous, especially after last week. I'm nervous about the Pats being able to keep it close. So I think I'm leaning towards an under on this one. Scott jumping in says he's got Brissett under 135.5 passing yards, minus 115. I do like that. That's a nice, Scott. Good one you brought up there. I do like the Brissett under yards. They do not want to air it out. They do not. They want Stevenson to run the ball. Mm-hmm. They want to keep the ball possession. That's why they have Brissett in there. If they wanted to air it out and kind of get crazy, they would be playing Drake May. They'd be playing Drake May. They want to run ugly games. We got a new head coach. He wants wins, and he's playing Brissett because he thinks Brissett can do it. And I tell you what, Brissett's a good guy to do that. He just is. I like him. He can control the offense. I think he's an underrated QB. He's not a star, obviously, in this league, but he's an underrated guy that can keep teams in it if they got good defensive play, which the Patriots looked pretty good on defense in week 1.
I fear that they're going to have this offense set up just like it was before, where it's not much of a passing game. You know, Jalen Polk didn't do anything. He had 1 reception last week. Mario Douglas was a feel-good story last year, but I'm not really sure that he's going to be, you know, he can't be counted on as a wide receiver 1 for a team. You know, you got KJ Osborne, Tyquan Thornton, Javon Baker, the rookie. I mean, maybe he contributes at some point in time, but until they get their you know, this whole team kind of, you know, with the same vision, I think it's just going to be a Ramondre Stevenson show. Even Antonio Gibson's kind of nursing some injuries, so he can't even really contribute, even though he had a bunch of carries for not really impressive yards or, you know, that kind of thing. But I don't really, their offense is going to take a while to get on track. I think Seattle's going to mount the floor in New England this week, to be honest with you.
Next game we've got Jets -4 at the Tennessee Titans. Over under in this one's 41.5. I am all over the Jets this week. I think that Jets put it to Tennessee. I say it every show. I just don't like the Titans. I mean, they came out in a perfect situation last week, got up 17-0 on the Bears, and then got outscored 24-0 without the Bears scoring an offensive touchdown. They gave up 24 unanswered points without an offensive touchdown coming from the Bears. The Jets, yes, they got beat by the Niners, but man, the Niners look good. That was a tough situation. I think the Jets defense is just going to be licking their chops with Will Levis this week. I think they're ready to get turnovers, takeaways. Sauce Gardner wants one. I just don't trust the Titans and Will Levis anyway in this one. I'm jumping on the Jets. I'm taking the points -4.
-4 that's not big enough of a spread for me. I think the Jets are going to do a pretty good job against this team. I don't understand how Tennessee is so bad. They imported all these weapons to help Will Levis this year. I think that was the problem. Is I think people really kind of thought that Tennessee was going to look a little bit better this year with, even if he can't throw the ball that well, he's still got 2 decent running backs to run the ball. Tony Pollard looked good last week. If they can get Spears and Pollard involved in the passing game a little bit more, which was supposed to be the trick to it all. It's Will Levis had a terrible offensive line last year. As soon as things got bad, he could dump it off to one of his running backs that are pretty much like a Spider-Man meme. Both of them run the same. They catch the same. They're both really good running backs. You can't rely on one. You have to use both of them. I don't really know what's going on. I feel until they get things under control, and it may be a Will Levis thing, and maybe an offensive play calling thing. I don't know, but I just feel like the Jets are going to roll them this week. I'll take the Jets.
Yeah, and I would get on this bet early if you can, because I have a feeling that number is going to move up. As people start looking at it, they're going to start jumping on the Jets, and I think you're going to see that line move. Next one, Jags at home against the Browns, -3 for the Jags, over under 41.5. What is going on in Cleveland? Deshaun Watson, I called this meltdown now for 2 years that he was not going to bounce back. It didn't matter how much time you gave him. He did not look good in week 1. The Jags got off to a really nice start against the Dolphins before a late comeback by the Dolphins and a 50-yarder to win that game. I like the Jags at home in this game. I think the Browns defense is going to continue to play well and try to keep it close in this one. The Browns defense did a pretty good job against the Cowboys last week. It was just the Browns offense and their special teams that killed them.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to go do a lot. The stats weren't fantastic for T-Law in week 1. Me and you are both on the T-Law train. I still think he's going to be good. I think he's going to have a nice season. I'm on the Jags here at the -3. I think they get this game done. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Browns will figure out a way to stay in this one. They'll pound the rock with Ford. But until famous Jameis gets in there for the Browns, I just have no love for them, and I just don't believe in their offense and that they're going to get it done until they get him. I just don't think that team is inspired by Deshaun Watson whatsoever.
I guess I'm going to take the Jaguars in this one. Just not because I'm a Trevor Lawrence fan. I just think they have a better all-around team than Cleveland does, especially at quarterback position. At any point in time, Trevor Lawrence can go ham against anybody in this league. And they had all the firepower to actually do that. That's a nice 1-2 punch. Tank Bigsby, I did not trust a lot. He looked pretty decent last week. Dearness Johnson is somebody that I like a lot. They haven't really gotten involved, but I think Travis Etienne by himself can take over this offense. I just feel like that this is until Cleveland gets their wheels rolling. This is going to be a Jacksonville Jaguars kind of role, especially at home. I think they're a little better team than they showed last week. I'm expecting Jacksonville to win by at least like 5 or 6 points. So I'll take Jacksonville here.
We got another comment here. Bring it up here from Cheeto. He says, saw a crazy stat line. Breece Hall inside the 5. Only had 1 carry last year, and this year just 1 as well to start things off. Yeah, they did not get him the ball once they got on the goal line last year. I think that changes. I think he's going to get more goal line carries, and I think they're going to be in more goal line situations with Aaron Rodgers around. But Aaron Rodgers does we've seen it. He likes to throw the ball a lot once you get into that red zone inside the 5-10 yard line. I can't remember the stat, but he's got a crazy number of less than 10-yard touchdown passes in his career. He loves to run the play action, fake guys out and make it. But I think that stat, it was kind of a wonky stat last year for the Jets. It was just kind of circumstances with Zach Wilson and everything at QB prevented them from being inside the 5 a lot. I think that changes for Breece. So I'm not scared off on a Breece Hall touchdown. So if you're thinking do we think we can get in? Does he have to bust a big one? I don't think so. I think you could still get some work from Breece Hall.
One of the 4 times they were inside the 5 yard line, he didn't get the ball. But other than that, that's terrible. They were never. I don't think they threatened it on short plays of it, in good drives the entire season. So that was definitely a murky stat.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I hear you. Let's go to the next game real quick here. Giants Commanders, the -2 for the Commanders, +2 for the Giants, over under 43. This game is ugly. Usually these types of games I just avoid or I get on player props because I don't want to take the game. The Commanders, they showed a little life in week 1. The Giants, not so much. I'm just waiting for Drew Lock to take over so I can start taking all my favorite Drew Lock stats for the Giants right now. -2. You can also get on the money line -125, which I don't hate for the Commanders. I'm leaning this one Commanders just because they're at home against a division rival who hasn't looked great. The Giants really need a good performance. They need something in this game. I don't trust either one of these teams, but if you force me to take someone here, I'm taking the Commanders -2.
Yeah, that's not big. That's not a big enough spread. I think the Commanders they seem to have their head on straight. Jaden Daniels is, way better quarterback than Daniel Jones. We saw that week 1. And that's only going to improve. And I think that Terry McLaurin's is going to disappear every week. That's a little crazy. So I'm sure all week long this week they're practicing running routes and why Terry McLaurin didn't get the ball and seeing what's going on. I expect the Commanders to improve on what how they looked last week. So I'm going to take Commanders here and -2. This could have been -5, and I still would have taken the Commanders. So I'm going to take. I don't trust the Giants whatsoever at all. Then there's a lot of dissension in the locker room with the coaching staff. They can't put anything together. And the worse it gets, the worse it's going to get on the sidelines, the coaching staff and the locker room, the whole deal. It's going to be bad, I think, for the Giants this year. I think they're already eyeballing or have a vision for next year's draft. This team, they're a wreck.
Yeah, I agree with you. Scott jumping in. Brian Robinson over 13.5 rushing attempts. He likes that a lot. I like that too. I think Jane Daniels is going to get a lot of carries, but I think Brian Robinson's going to get a lot of carries as well. He was right near that number in week 1. So I think that's a solid bet. Now let's move to the afternoon games, as we've got Rams Cardinals -1.5 for the Cardinals at home. Over under 48. This one I always feel is wild. The Rams it seems like the Cardinals always play them tough, especially in Arizona. Oh, this is a game I always feel nervous about putting money on. I always feel nervous. I never throw it in a parlay because I know I'm going to get bit whatever side I take on this one. Under over 48. I would probably feel better about the over. I think the Cardinals offense is still going to be pretty good. The Rams defense is better than I think people thought they would be, but I'm not convinced that they're going to completely shut down. And I just don't like the Cardinals defense. I don't think their defense is that great. I would probably go over here. I'd love to move that line a little bit and get it down just a hair if I could. Rams feel like the play at +1.5. But the Arizona always plays them tough. What do you think, John?
I would parlay if I could move that line down a little bit to like 46. I would parlay this. I'd probably take Arizona and the over if I can move that over under down a little bit, like 2 more points or something like that to get it to 46. I think the spread's a little bit too small. I think the Cardinals are another team that's a little bit underrated. They didn't play that well week 1. Just things didn't quite go right. They got too much talent on their team to not play better.
And they did get the cover. They did get the cover week 1. They were +6.5. They lost by 6 to the Bills. I actually took them week 1. I was like, I think they're covering. I pushed that line to 7 and took Arizona +7 because I just thought they were going to be feisty. And I thought that was going to be an offensive game where neither defense did much to slow each other down. Ended up happening. I was right for once, John. It happens ever so often. So I like where your head's at. If I'm getting in this one, I'm moving the line down and putting it in a parlay. I'm definitely going to look at some player props in this game. Cooper Kupp under 25.5 longest reception. Scott likes. I could see it. I am so hard for me to take the unders. I don't like unders. I want to see big plays because I'm a fantasy guy. So I like to see the big plays. Cooper Kupp just absolutely got pelted last week. 21 targets is just, it was wild. It made me think of, go back to one of my Colts stories. I remember Jay Cutler back on the Broncos and Brandon Marshall. They were at Indy and I'm sitting in the end zone and Jay Cutler is just peppering Brandon Marshall with target after target, pass after pass, and everyone's screaming, why are they double teaming him? Why are they double teaming? They just refuse to double team him. I would have to look up, I'll look up and if I get a second to look up but Brandon Marshall, I thought it was an NFL record in that game. He ended up with like 18 catches, maybe more. It was an ungodly amount. And they just kept throwing him and they wouldn't stop. And that was like, I was thinking that as I was watching the Rams game. I was like, yes, Matthew Stafford. I'm like, just keep throwing Cooper Kupp the ball. I'm like, absolutely. I'm like, this is freaking phenomenal. I expect that number to be high again with Puka Nacua news that he is out. They don't know how long the injury is going to be for sure, but it's at least 4 or 5 weeks. So I would expect Cooper Kupp to keep getting the action. I just don't think the Cardinals have anybody to lock him down. So I don't think it matters if they put everybody on him. I still think he's going to be in the mix there.
Absolutely.
Bengals Chiefs. 5.5 right now. John, does this seem low to you? I am shocked it's only 5.5. The Chiefs look great in week 1. They just seem to get it done. They're at home. Do the Bengals bounce back and make this a game, or are we off on the Bengals? I've got to see it out of the Bengals before they just burned me too hard last week. Like I said, cost me a $1,600 parlay. They were my one loss in my 4-legger. They didn't cover, absolutely killing me. They're now on my shit list. I am not taking the Bengals until they get it together. I just refuse after they cost me money week 1. I'm taking the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs can win this one. I love it. That's 5.5, so I can win by 6 with a couple field goals, but I think the Chiefs win this one by at least a touchdown. I'm on them.
Just so T. Higgins missed practice again yesterday. I didn't hear the report about today if he made practice or not, but this Gesicki looked pretty good week 1. He got robbed of a touchdown. He was wide open on a couple other routes that I've seen. So I don't think that Cincinnati can look as bad as they did week 1. And I think they're gonna say like, hey guys, get your head out of your asses. We played like shit. We're playing Kansas City. We know we're gonna lose if we play like we did last week. I don't see a situation where Cincinnati plays that bad, but Zach Moss and Chase Brown kind of really scare me in this being the only running backs in this. I think Joe Mixon walking away from Joe Mixon hurt this team a lot more than they thought it would. And I'm still taking the Chiefs here, but I think it's gonna be a little bit of closer game than maybe some people think from the production that Cincinnati had week 1. But again, I just it could get ugly real fast, but I think they keep it somewhat close, but I'm still taking Kansas City.
Yeah, I think the Bengals could be a little more feisty this week. I agree with you there, but I think the Chiefs, they always figure out a way to get it done, and I think they do in this one. Scott says, I like Chase and Rice combined over 137.5 yards at -115. I like that. Little Ray Rice and Chase, he's going to want the football with another week back in there. I like that. I mean, you only got to get, what is that, 68 yards, 69 yards out of each guy, so about 70 plus. I think that's a nice little bet. Scott giving us some nice little nuggets here to get going, so I like that. Steelers here. Let's the Steelers -2.5 at the Broncos. So far, no word on whether it's going to be Fields or Russell Wilson. Fields is leaning. Looks like he might get the win. Here's where I'm going this game. This over-under is 36.5. This is the lowest total of the week. 36. Yeah. I think that, and I said it, I think this Steelers defense could be elite this year. I really do. I think they could be elite. I'm going to be on some defensive props in this game. I'm taking the points. I think the Steelers win this game by 3. It's going to be – I don't think they blow them out because I don't think the Steelers are going to have a lot of blowouts this year. I just don't think that's the way they're going to play offense. I think they're going to play conservative. You saw it last week with the 6 field goals from Boswell. This team, they're going to take points. They're not going to get crazy. They're not going to go for it a bunch, I don't think. I think they're going to trust the defense. That's how Mike Tomlin plays it. I think you could go the under in this game, too. Bo Nix, 42 pass attempts week 1. Only, I think it was 138 yards, if I remember off the top of my head. That's a recipe for disaster against the Steelers. If he's throwing 42 times and the pass rush of the Steelers is just bearing down on him, it just makes me love. There's a sack for TJ Watt in week 1, 2 strip sacks called back on penalties. The refs went back later and said, we kind of blew that. He got called for offsides because he moved so fast. He timed the ball and the snap so fast that they threw a flag thinking he was offsides. They looked at the replay. He wasn't. He just timed it up better than everyone other than the center. It was wild. I think he goes off. I actually think the Broncos have a pretty solid defense. I think this ends up being a really close game. It's going to remind me of the 18-10 Falcons drag out game in the opener. I think this one's low scoring. I could see a Steelers, 16-10. 17-10 type of win, 20-10 right in there. But I'm going to take the Steelers. I'm going to take the 2.5, and I'm going to get on it before it gets to 3 because I do think this could end up being a field goal game. I think it could be a game. The Steelers historically played terrible in Denver. They historically played terrible in Denver. Justin Fields, if he does get the start, the Bears lost the game last year against the Broncos, but Justin Fields went off. Threw for over 200, had 4 touchdowns. He looked phenomenal in that game. The defense really let him down in that one. I'm going to be on some if anybody jumped on my JT parlay, like I said, I like to take my losses, and I don't hide from them. I jumped on a crazy parlay, same game parlay, all Justin Field props. I missed every single prop last week on Justin Field. So I'm going to admit my JT parlay play of the day was that. It was a wild bet. My buddy Mike Soderlund, who's just probably the biggest Justin Fields fan I know, and now he's a converted almost Steelers fan. He's a Bears fan, but he roots for Justin Fields. He put that prop in. I loved it. I followed him. I tailed him on that one. We're back at it. I'm gonna have a Justin Fields player prop this week. That's gonna be a big one, and I think he's got a chance to hit it. John, what do your thoughts on the Steelers Broncos?
I think they are going to bottle up. I'm going to say Pittsburgh is going to bottle up Denver's run games. They know that's the only way they're going to win. They're going to force Bo Nix to try to do something, which he's not going to be able to. And I think this game is going to get ugly real fast. This is going to be a humongous blowout from the Steelers in my mind.
I would love it. I would love to see that. I'd love to see him pile it on for once. I just really like the Steelers in this game, and like I said, I just like their defense. Shut them down. Sunday night game. This is going to be an interesting one. Texas -6.5 against the Bears. Over under 45.5. The Texans. The offense looked well-oiled machine against the Colts in Week 1. Mixon 30 carries, career high, over 150 yards. Just pounded the ball on the ground. Stroud looked great throwing it. Everybody wondered, can Tank, can Nico, can Diggs, can all of them coexist? Well, after Week 1, yes. Huge game for Nico, over 100 yards receiving. Diggs, 2 touchdown catches. The odd man out was kind of Tank. He still had 3 for 40 in that one. The Bears' offense looked awful. Caleb Williams gets the win in his career opener. They're going to forget about the stat line, and they're going to say, hey, he won his first career game. He was under 100 yards passing. The Bears' offense looked terrible, but they got saved by their defense. I think this defense is sneaky good. Are they good enough to keep the Bears in this game against the Texans on Sunday night?
Boy, I mean, you're looking at a situation here where the Bears might be without Keenan Allen. They might be without Rome. They might be just a DJ Moore show. And I'm not – Keenan Allen's on a quote-unquote rest day yesterday, and I'm not sure what they're going to do. And it's a late game. Terrible fantasy play, first of all. Like Keenan, if you're waiting on Keenan Allen, I mean, I would explore other options. But it's going to have to be the DeAndre Swift show. It's going to have to be Caleb Williams just kind of dumping off and trying to find, Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett, which I'm not sure if it's DJ Moore show. I mean, there's worse players in the league that I would want as my number one receiver, I guess. If DJ Moore can do it all by himself, he's proven that before. But, man, I'm not sure they keep up with this Houston Texans offense. I don't see it. And I'm not sure the Bears can slow the Bears defense as good as they looked last year against a terrible Will Levis-led Titans team. I'm not sure the Bears defense is going to be able to stick up, is going to be able to handle this Houston Texans multifaceted offense either.
Yeah, I've got having a group party over on Sunday, having friends over to watch the game. Excuse me, a bunch of my friends, all Bears fans, as I live in Illinois. I hope the Bears keep this one close so the party doesn't die and everyone goes home. But I have to tell you, I think the Texans cover this one 6.5. I just think they got too much firepower, and I think this Bears offense is going to get better. I just don't trust them right now. They're going to need time, and I just think this Texans defense is too good here in the early going. I just don't see him turning around this week. I'm taking the Texans in this one. Scott, with another nugget here for us, over 17.5 rush attempts for Joe Mixon, -1.5. He says it should be easy money. It should be, but I tell you what, if they get up in this game, I mean, Joe Mixon isn't super young. That game, they needed it against the Colts because the Colts they could just run all over them. I don't think the Bears are going to be easy to run against. I would be. I don't think that's a bad bet, but I will be a little bit nervous about them pounding the rock with Mixon as much, especially against this Bears defense. So it's not terrible. The -105 is nice. It's not like you're eating a lot of money there. So if they're up by two touchdowns, 17, 20 points, something like that, I could see Dario Ogunbowale coming in there and really taking that
some unneeded, unwanted usage off Joe Mixon. So yeah, I wouldn't quite say the over on. I'd take the under on at 17.5 rushing attempts. That's a lot of rushing attempts.
Yeah, John, I'm with you on that one. I could see this game not being as close, and then them wanting to save Joe Mixon for most part of the season, especially coming off a 30 carry game. I could see that hitting under. Not that I don't think they're going to get Mixon the ball. I think they will, but I could see them getting up and, like you said, all of a sudden getting him some rest and get him out because they don't need him to pound the rock.
Mm-hmm.
Let's head to the Monday night game before we get in some player props here in the last 10 minutes of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles at home against the Falcons, -6.5. The over-under is 47. What are your thoughts on this one, John?
My thoughts on this one is that the Eagles look pretty damn good, man. I don't.
They did, didn't they?
Kirk Cousins looked like he was kind of like unsure of himself. You saw a lot of the throws he was throwing off his like front leg instead of his back foot. They've highlighted that in multiple occasions where he wasn't like really pushing off on his throws. He threw a lot of passes as short, wasn't throwing very long on some of his plays. Drake London's not a downfield guy anyway, so that kind of works in his favor on medium range passes. Darnell Mooney is a field stretcher. That's why Ray McLeod was getting so much usage week one, because they were doubling up Drake London. Mooney was a field stretcher, and McLeod was open across the middle. So Atlanta they're a team that could definitely keep this. They could go toe to toe with Philly if they're playing their cards right. But I just think Philly at any point in time at anywhere against any team, Philly could just open up the throttle and just start rolling people. So until Philly gets slowed down a little bit, I'm going to take Philly.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. Excuse me. Got a little hair on my side. It's a little early in the morning for me. I know people are like, "Oh, it's middle afternoon, Justin," but I'm a late nighter. Trying to get together here still with the coffee. I'm with you. I'm on the Eagles -6.5. I think this Falcons team is going to be in the mix. I don't think they're there yet. I think this team is still kind of get together, working Kirk Cousins in. I think this defense is going to be improved, but they added Judon late. They added Justin Simmons late. I just think that this Eagles team is good enough to get it done at home. I don't think they want to have a regression after the Friday night big win against the Packers. So I'm going to take the 6.5. I'm taking the Eagles.
Nice.
John, here, last couple minutes, we're going to get into some player props. We had a couple questions earlier in the show about player props. If you guys got anything like Scott, and if you other guys have been throwing some out, feel free to jump in. Chris earlier asked, what's your best long shot anytime touchdown in the game tonight between the Bills and the Dolphins? I'm looking through who they got. Anytime scorer, first touchdowns, one's out there.
Give me Jalen Wright.
Jalen Wright right now, and I knew, John, you were going to be on that, so that's why I was looking up his odds. He's at +170 for an anytime touchdown and +950 for the first touchdown of the game. The +170 anytime I like. Shakur is +290, and Keon Coleman +245 for an anytime touchdown. I kind of like a Keon Coleman +245. Anytime TD. I could see him getting one in the goal line. Again, I think this is going to be a fairly offensive game. There isn't any kind of real crazy. If I wanted to go long shot, I got to take my boy Ray Davis. +800 to score a touchdown, Ray Davis. He got just a couple carries in week one. I think this might be early in the season to take Ray Davis. I think he's going to get more carries as the year progresses. Right now, he hasn't really worked his way into that like goal line role, which I think he will do later in the year. So if you wanted a long shot at +800, Dawson Knox at +550 is interesting. He's a guy that gets some goal line work. They don't throw to him a lot. With Kincaid there, neither one of them saw a lot of action last week, but +550 for Dawson Knox is an interesting one if you wanted to go there. I know a lot of my friends, a lot of guys like to throw just a couple bones out on the first TD scorer. Last week we hit it with Derrick Henry at +650 for the first touchdown of the game. So that was a nice little one to pique the interest and get the season started. Right now, you can Devin A. Chain is at +600, Tyreek Hill +600, Josh Allen at +650 are the top three. Jeff Wilson They think he's going to get some PT. He's the 4th highest at plus 700 right now.
A-Chain might be out.
Exactly. So that one's an interesting one. Jeff Wilson at plus 700. Jalen Wright is plus 950. I think he will see some work. It'll be interesting to see if he got work that early in the game. I do kind of like a sneaky Jalen Waddle at plus 1,000 and James Cook at plus 1,000 for a first TD score. I might lay a little money on Jaden Waddle at the plus 1,000. What do you think, John? Do you think you taking a Bills player or a Dolphins player to get the first one here?
I mean,
it's a toss up. I mean, it's a coin flip. You know,
it's
like it's almost like who's going to get the ball first.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. You might as well bet on a coin toss if you're going to bet on who's going to score first, that kind of thing. But there's anybody on. I mean, Tyreek Hill can get the ball on a 5-yard slant and take it 95 yards in the house. Waddle can do the same thing. Josh Allen can throw the ball 85 yards. You know, there's really no. Right, Keon Coleman is a field stretcher, a touchdown maker. Kincaid can make anything happen. Whoever wins the coin toss, it's a really good chance that if you can put the bet in as soon as that happens, that I mean, I don't know. You might as well.
You can do it. You'll definitely get the odds lower as soon as they go. They'll change those odds a little bit, but you can do that. But yeah, just jump in there if you like the touchdown. Like I said, we had Scott earlier popped up. He said he liked James Cook over 18.5 receiving yards and Josh Allen under 22.5 completions. So if you're putting a same game parlay in tonight, those are two ones that I agree with Scott. I think are pretty nice that you could throw in there as options. So I like that as well. Last couple minutes of the show here, John. I was trying to look through, see of any other ones. I'll end up looking them up and posting them later. A couple that come off the top of my head that I like Ladd McConkey over receiving yards in this one for the Chargers. It's a number I saw earlier in the week. I'm not sure exactly where it's sitting currently, but I do like his over receiving yards. I think it was like in the high 30s on that one.
I take the over on that.
Yeah, and that's why I say I just think he got a decent amount of looks. I think that could be a good one. I do like the Jonathan Taylor over rushing yards. We talked about that. He's at the high 70s in that one. I like him going over the rushing yards. I like Derrick Henry over rushing yards against the Raiders. I think the Raiders front is not great. I think he could pound the rock. I mean, we just saw J.K. Dobbins go for 130 or so yards. So I like the over rushing yards.
What is it on Derrick Henry?
I will look up Derrick Henry right now to figure out exactly what it is.
He's funny, man. He can get 15 carries for 18 yards and then get 197 yard. Like he does it all the time. He's just one of those guys. So I'm coming up with I'm always thinking there's always going to be one Derrick Henry long run, and I don't see them being behind where they have to turn to the passing game here at all either. So I think Derrick Henry will be utilized like we thought Derrick Henry would be used in this game. So I'm thinking somewhere around 80 yards myself. If I was too bad, probably like anywhere between like 15 to 20 touches, rushing attempts for probably 80 yards. I think Derrick Henry's a beast, but at the same time, I'm trying to be realistic. So I'm going to go like 4 yards a carry and just kind of say, I'm going to say 20 carries for 80 yards is what I'm going to kind of go with. So yeah, hopefully it's somewhere else.
I'm having a hard time finding it. I am pulling it up here. Right now, Derrick Henry is sitting on 71.5 rushing yards at minus 115. Lamar Jackson is 50.5 rushing yards at minus 115. So I'm taking the over there. I think he gets over 70 rushing yards.
Yes.
I like that one. Touchdown. I like James Conner week 1 for a touchdown. He got it. I might jump back in on a James Conner TD. Oh, I had a monster parlay for about I think it was plus. It would have been it was like plus 4,000. And I missed it on a DJ Moore and Najee Harris touchdown. It was like a 6 player prop TD prop, and I had 4 out of 6. I was like, I felt like I was right there. I'm going to jump on some Justin Fields over props in this one. I'm going to figure out which ones I want to kind of combine together in a parlay.
If I'm looking at Justin Fields this week, okay, they're not going to just kick 6 field goals. They're going to score. I'm hoping that he gets in there to, it's going to be a big Pat Freiermuth week is what I'm thinking this week.
They did not throw over the middle much. I think they're going to try to get over the middle in this game. If you looked at last game and you looked at the passing chart for Fields, everything was on the sidelines. I think they're going to look at that this week and be like, hey, we got to start playing a little more down the middle of the field.
I think a lot of people probably have around 175 passing yards, which, that's fine. Denver's a decent defense. I get it. But Justin Fields by himself just creates panic for a defense. So he's going to get his rushing yards. I think he's going to throw a little bit more than usual. It's probably like 175-ish. And
it's going to be interesting. So right now they don't have the props up because there's not a guarantee he's going to start.
Yeah.
So if you are going to get on the Fields props, which we did last week, we had to get in late once he officially was starting. So I'll keep an eye on that. I definitely will have a JT parlay play of the day on Justin Fields player props. Looking through some other players, I'm going to probably be on Breece Hall for the Jets. I like Breece Hall. I think he's going to be able to be pretty solid against the Titans.
What's the numbers from him? He's probably the number one rusher this week because McCaffrey's out. Bijan's got a pretty tough matchup versus Philly. Kyron Williams is playing the Cardinals, that's a good matchup too. A-Chain might be out. Saquon versus Atlanta. I'm not sure they're going to use Saquon like they did before. He got a couple touchdowns kind of handed to him. Just right up the middle, untouched for long runs. So I think Breece Hall is probably the running back one this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would not be hesitant to put some on Breece Hall. It's going to be interesting to see where the Rams props end up on Cooper Kupp with no Puka and with the first game he had. My guesses are going to be through the roof. So, like I said, I don't usually like to take the over-unders. I like the unders, excuse me, but if they get really crazy high, even though I have Cooper on a ton of fantasy teams, I might have to go the unders if there's just a crazy amount of high stats for him on that one. Trying to think if there's anything else that jumped out at me as one that I definitely need to jump in. I can see Barkley with another touchdown. He would be a nice guy to throw in a TD parlay prop as well.
I tell you what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to try, and last week tight ends did so bad. I'm going to say
back week, tight end bounce back week. I like
bounce back week, tight end league. Exactly. I'm going to say Mark Andrews, I say likely might share the load a little bit this week. I'm expecting a bigger game from George Kittle because he stuck it up my arse last week. I'm expecting a bigger game. They're playing the Vikings in Minnesota. That's indoor. It's a dome. So, that's spread the ball around a little bit. But I think Travis Kelce won't look as bad as he did before last week versus Cincinnati. Look for Kyle Pitts to not just be open in the back of the end zone for one catch. Again, guys like Evan Ingram, who only had minimal use last week.
One catch, 5 yards. So yeah, Ingram I think could get a little more action this week.
Dalton Kincaid, guys like that who were kind of I don't know what happened last week. I'm expecting, Pat Freiermuth was another one that I think it's.
All right, John, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. We'll do it off air. We'll do it off air and we'll put it on your page and my page. We're going to put a little tight end player parlay together. We're going to do catches and yards and touchdowns. We're going to get together a little parlay of some tight ends and put them together. We'll post that on my page at JT Orange, and we'll also post it on John's page at John McGlynn 75. We're going to talk about that one and get that one to you guys. I like that idea, John. Let's do a little tight end parlay play this week with a lot of stuff. So we're just over the hour. We want to thank everybody who joined us, a great crew here online on Twitter, on the X, on YouTube. We appreciate it. Make sure you go out, Fantasy and Frames, like them, subscribe, hit that notification button on, especially now that football season is here. We have shows every day, all day. We've got me and John doing shows during the day. We've got shows at night. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday mornings. If you don't have a place that you watch a pregame show that you want to get questions in, they're great about answering your questions. Jump on Fantasy and Frames on YouTube or on Twitter in the morning before NFL Sunday. I'll jump on there this week if I can. I didn't get to jump on live last week as I was on my way to the Colts game, but I did jump on, answer some questions, also threw in some comments myself on there. So do that. Everybody also check out the Dynasty Evaluation Show with John McGlynn the host. I'm lucky enough that he has me on there and lets me chat it up with him. We had a great show yesterday during the day, so check us out. We're a little more impromptu on the Dynasty Evaluation Show, but we're usually jumping on Tuesdays or Wednesdays during the day, depending on the work schedule for us. You can find my show here usually on Wednesdays or Thursdays. The NFL betting show is when it comes out. Usually put this one out during the day as well. My college football betting show, if you're a college football guy, that show is every Tuesday night at 9:30 Central Time, 10:30 Eastern. We jump in, me and my buddy Benny D. We talk about all the college games, what we like, what's coming up, and just kind of chit chat. It's like two buddies hanging out at the bar, just talking off the game, deciding what we like and what we don't like. So that's a real fun show to watch and get into. John, anything else for the people here before we shut this thing down?
I was up this morning at 9 o'clock making my flexums for the week, JT, while you were honking. So
that's right.
I got an article done today. Again, another article. I did some flexums. So JT, you were on, what do you got, about 75 hours this week on podcasts on IDP?
It seems like it, I think.
If you're not following JT Orange on the X Machine or everywhere he's got stuff, have at it. He's a humongous asset to this Fantasy and Frames awesome site. It was already awesome before he got here, before I got here. We're just lucky to be here. And on top of that, just the contributions that JT brings to this site and everywhere he goes with his betting, the college, the NFL, the Dynasty, the all across the board. Thanks for having me on this show, JT. I look forward to it. Hopefully this is more of a regular thing because I like doing these betting shows, even though I'm not good at them. I don't think anybody really is good at betting, but I do my best, and I like talking football.
Hey, we're not experts. We're just guys having fun, talking football, talking a little betting. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Scott, Cheeto, all the guys that got on and threw us ideas. Scott throwing a couple more in here. Parlay Allen and Hill anytime TD together tonight. I like that one. I'm going to have that one probably in my same game parlay. Again, I will put out my JT Parlay play of the day for the Thursday night game here later on today on the X. Check me out there at JT Orange. Saquon is at 16.5 receiving yards. Ooh, that's pretty low. I love to get running backs in that like 11 to 16 range because all you got to get is one good catch and they'll clear that one as well. And your boy Devontae Smith, Scott says over 59.5. Seems low to him, so 60 yards receiving. I like that. And John, I know you're a Devontae Smith guy, so I like that one too. That could be a good one for Monday night to throw in the same game parlay there as well.
Slim Reaper, baby. It's my guy.
I want to thank everyone for joining us on the show, watching, listening. If you didn't get a chance to watch the show, obviously we replay this. If you want to hear the whole show, if you jumped in late, we will have this posted on podcast form as well here shortly, but you can always go back and watch on the YouTube channel, on the Stew with JT Brew, and on Fantasy in Frames. Thanks so much for joining us. May all your bets hit and the trading never quit. We'll check you next time.
Yeah.
You up on trades and wire moves, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so start an institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sit through sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes down to homies who click in groups. I introduce you to the Stew with JT Brew.